Okay, babies, it's that time again. Oh, yeah. It's finally warmed up a little bit that I can actually feel the heat that's trying to come on. Whereas before, it was not happening for a whole hour. Right, so we are in Revelation 8. And I am not going to talk about it very much. But somehow we should springboard off of it somehow, right? It's basically just a list of, I believe, trumpets signifying different aspects of God pouring out his wrath. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, baby. I thought God got rid of his wrath by giving us Jesus, and so that we all have access to God through our faith in Jesus. So, not a big one on that. So, that's about all I'm going to work on there. In other words, people spend too much time believing the Bible and then wrap their heads, their psyche, their psychology, their personalities, their intransigent characteristics around this fear of God's retribution, whether it's in an ultimate setting, like the condition of their soul, or if it's in a temporal setting of, God's going to punish me for whatever it is I'm doing. Now, you certainly get enough of that in the prophetic books, but that's before the advent of Jesus, so it's kind of, to me, more of a sign of, that old way of thinking. But then again, as I'm thinking out loud, what is the point of Jesus if there wasn't the threat of God's wrath, right? Why would Jesus have to die as a sacrificial lamb if he wasn't protecting us from the big badness of God? Good question. So this is how I rationalize it. Because I don't believe in the big badness of God, and that God is just forever loving and merciful, and that's why we had the experience of Jesus, is that God was willing to create a world in which his own beloved son would die as a sacrificial lamb so that everyone would have the opportunity to have access to God. So, not having access to God is not a wrathful thing. It's a decision on our part not to engage with divinity. So I think all this vengeance and, threat of death and punishment is really our own doing, when in reality, sacrifices have forever been used to appease deities. And for a long time now, I've been thinking, why would God align himself with these pagan ideas of animal sacrifices? How primitive, right? Well, not really. If you think about it, if you feel like you need to make amends with the creator of your soul and the lover of your soul, then you want to give him something, or her, whomever. Give him and her something, if they're a married being. which would make sense, right? Father, Mother, God, birthing the world. That would make sense to me. So you would want to have something to give. So what are you going to give them? You're going to give them something that's of value, right? Because you're willing to give something up that you could benefit from to your idea of God in hope that it would be seen as a genuine gesture, and then you would be in better, in better standing. That sounds reasonable to me. And then for God to take that place himself through his Son is even more remarkable. And then for people to have the experience of having a drastic change of life and evidence of spiritual renewal to the point of sustaining hope and faith through dark times because of that realignment with God through Jesus. Also remarkable. So that brings us to the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, and today I'm in chapter 83, where Jesus, interestingly enough, is depicted as not being part of this vengeful God looking to separate from all those who aren't doing things exactly right, but rather looking for opportunities to give people hope in the resources that they have, that they may not realize they have, and aligning with people who have the right intentions. Yeah, really interesting. Now, obviously, the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ is a fictional piece of work, but the stories in it could just as easily have occurred, in my opinion, a lot of them anyway, as our current Gospels. So in this case, the former example I gave you, where Jesus is pointing to our own resourcefulness, instead of laying hands on the person possessed of a demon and having the demon be cast out, a lot of which current prophets are saying we're going to be moving into a greater period of that deliverance kind of ministry being seen. So we'll see if that comes to pass. So instead of Jesus laying hands on this guy and casting out the demon, he just says, you've become this mess of a human being because of your choices. So go correct yourself. Stop aligning yourself with the wrong things and start living right. And as the guy leaves with that instruction, the demon is released from his from him. I won't say body because it's not necessarily a physical thing. And then there's kind of this challenge between Jesus and certain groups, Samaritans, people who maybe have different beliefs, cultural practices, whatever, or Pharisees, priests. And so people are looking for like this division between the two. And instead, Jesus says, no, let's align together and you'll see that I am for the same things you are. And let's live peaceably together. Because he knows that they honor the scriptures. They want to live a right life. They might be off on their methodology, but Jesus is focusing in on the positive commonality. So in both cases, You don't have the retributive, fearful God operating. You have the merciful Savior aligning. Yeah, baby.